What's going on, everybody? And I hope you've all had a fantastic Sunday. And to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day to one and to all. NYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm going to give you the New York Mets recap for both games today. Mets played a continuation of the game that was rained out in the top of the third inning, and also the game that was scheduled for today, this afternoon. And the Mets, they got themselves a split of the day, let's just say that. In the first game for the Mets overall, they got a pretty decent pitching performance overall from Joey Lucceshi. He actually pitched pretty well. Obviously, he only pitched 2 innings because of the fact that the team had to deal with the rainout. He pitched 2 innings overall yesterday. 4 hits he gave up, 1 earned run, and 1 walk with no strikeouts. Then in terms of the rest of the game today, the Mets had Steve Nagosic come in for about 3 innings. He gave up 2 hits overall with 1 earned run and 1 walk, but struck out 2 in 3 innings overall. Then Leone came in afterwards just to fill in, and he surrendered 3 hits with 1 run overall, and he gave up a home run to the Washington Nationals, one to Abrams in the bottom of the 7th inning, which ended up proving to be the game winner overall. After Jeff McNeil, in the top of the 7th, he had a sacrifice fly to drive in, Michael Perez from third base in order to tie the game. But Abrams was able to drive in the big run to get the big win, and then the bullpen of the Nationals was able to lock it down with some good defense. And the Mets unfortunately fell in this first game to the Nationals 3-2, as the bats once again went ice cold. Brandon Nimmo had a couple of nice hits in the game, including a double overall, where he was able to drive in he was able to hit a big double in the game, as well as he drove in one of the 2 runs, a sacrifice fly to right field that drove in Daniel Vogelback to third. That was his lone RBI, as well as, like I mentioned, Jeff McNeil got an RBI as well. But the rest of the New York Mets bat just went absolutely quiet. Even though they got 11 hits, they couldn't get any more runs in. And the Mets unfortunately fell in the first game by the final score of 3-2. Pitching actually did their job for the most part. I mean, when you only give up 3 runs, you're expecting to go out there and win these games. But unfortunately, the Mets bullpen just couldn't get it together. I mean, the Mets bats just couldn't get enough hitting out there today. And unfortunately, the team just they just didn't have enough to pull out the victory. And unfortunately, Leone ended up taking the loss, and the Mets dropped to 19-21 on the season. Now, the second game of this little doubleheader, if you want to call it a doubleheader, well, this ended up going a different route for the New York Mets. It was the first time since Max Scherzer was pitching, since he had that pretty bad performance last time against the Detroit Tigers, and then had to sit out for a little bit due to an inflammation in his arm. But 2 major positives came out of this game for the New York Mets, and it's something to be very happy about. Number 1, Max Scherzer, even though it is the Washington Nationals, Max Scherzer had himself a vintage Max Scherzer type of pitching game, as he went 5 innings overall, striking out 6 and only giving up 1 earned run, which was a double to center field by Abrams in bottom of the 2nd inning, and he struck out 6 while only walking 2. That's one of the big positives in this game. The other big positive, the Mets offense for the first time in a while got the bats going, and they had multi-hit games from Starling, Marte, and Canha especially, who both of them have been struggling from the plate. Ditto for Francisco Lindor. He also had a multi-hit game. The Mets ended up having 10 hits overall, but they were able to take that 10 hits and straggle them for 8 runs overall. No home runs. They won it with small ball. And the Mets get a big 8-2 victory in the second half of their game. The Mets defense, and the Mets pitching overall, did an excellent job. Brooks Raley, who came off the injured list due to a inflammation in his arm, he only pitched 1 inning, gave up 3 walks and a strikeout. Jeff Brigham came in. He gave up 1 hit and struck out 2. And then obviously Muckenham, who's coming in to save the game and close it out for the Mets. He did give up 1 run overall on 1 hit, or 4 hits and 1 walk overall. When Abrams hit that another single, Abrams had both the RBIs for the Nationals in this game, but he was able to close it out, and the Mets end up getting a big victory behind the batting, the 10 hits and 8 runs scored by the New York Mets bats, and Max Scherzer going out there and pitching a vintage Max Scherzer type game. Exactly what this New York Mets team needed. Now, it is the Washington Nationals. You can't just go out there and, get all excited about it, like going crazy, because the Nationals are not a good baseball team. But at the same time, look at the numbers that were displayed for this New York Mets team. I mean, Nimmo had a hit. Escobar came in and had a hit. McNeil had a hit. Lindor had 2. Marte had 2. Canha had 2. Alonso, Beatty, Pham, and Alvarez are the only ones that did not have hits in this game. But for the overall sentiment of it, the Mets got the win today, and the bats being able to manufacture runs like they did in this game without having to use the long ball, and the fact that you got a very well-pitched outing by Max Scherzer coming off the injured list. This is a good thing for the Mets. This is a very good thing for the Mets. I mean, manufactured hits, Canha and Marte especially. The fact that they both were able to get the bats going is one of the most encouraging things, because this baseball team needs Marte and Canha to contribute towards the bottom of the lineup. Marte has been having a very tough beginning of his season. He's pretty much been struggling the entire time. So we needed a type of game like this, and him getting those 2 RBIs as well as Canha, who has also been struggling, is a big thing for the Mets. Nimmo continues to swing a pretty hot bat. The only batter on the Mets lineup right now batting over 300. He's now at 320 on the season. He continues to be the guy manufacturing runs. He actually was the designated hitter in the second game, whereas in the first game, he was playing center field and got those 2 big hits for the Mets overall. Good win by the Mets in the second game. First game, it is what it is. The pitching actually did their job. The hitting just didn't get it going. But the fact that you got a good pitching performance in the second game from Max Scherzer, as well as you got good hitting overall from the New York Mets, is a very, very good thing to see. And the Mets actually made a move today. They actually, in this roster move, they sent down starting left-handed pitcher Joey Lucceshi to AAA. They optioned him down to AAA in this game, and they also brought up and purchased the contract of Dennis Santana before the first game. The Mets also, Seth Eldridge was designated from assignment. And then Santana actually pitched a 1 hit 8th in that game. The Mets also added Zach McCuckerhan as the 27th member of the team for the second game, and they activated Brooks Raley off the injured list going forward for the Mets. Now, Mets are going to get ready to play their final game of this 4-game series. They've won 2 out of 3 so far, and they're going to be having David Peterson, who's 1-5 with a 7.68 ERA, going up against Patrick Corbin of the Nationals to see if the Mets can win this series or if they're going to settle for a split, as they're 20-21 on the season. But either way, Mets end up getting a split doubleheader in this one, if you want to call it that. They lose the first game 3-2, but pull out the second game 8-2. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and give a sub to NYG Jeffrey T85. More news updates and chatter and game recaps surrounding the New York Mets. Turn on the bell for notifications of the next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the New York Mets. And let me know in the comment section what you thought about today's New York Mets loss in the first game and victory in the second game. Plus, what you're looking forward to for the New York Mets going into tomorrow night's series finale against the Nationals with David Peterson on the mound going up against Patrick Corbin. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day Sunday night. Take it easy, and let's go New York Mets. As always, all you got to do is you got to believe in those boys from Queens.